We'll start in just one moment. We're still waiting for 2 to come in from our meeting, so. Come on in. There's a chair for you right here. If you can break in that one, there's snacks in there. I personally know. There you
Oh, sorry.
go. Okay.
Oh, for that, yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and begin with the Truckee Meadows Water Authority Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. Can we have a roll call?
Anderson,
Here?
Andriola, Garcia. Here. Breakfast,
Here.
Dare,
Here.
Dewar,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Reese,
Here. Here.
Lydia. Here, we have one.
If we could go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Garcia, would you lead us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We're moving on to public comment. Is there anybody who would have public comment? Do we have anything? Nothing. I see you, Mr. Salerno. You don't want to say anything? Good. We're moving on to possible board comments and acknowledgements, and I just want to make a quick one. Welcome Justina Cavilla, is that right? With Parsons, Bell, and Latimer. She is our new attorney for our board, and we want to welcome you, so good job. Any other board member? Very good. Moving on to 5. Can I have an approval of the agenda, or if anybody has any commendations?
Move to approve.
I have a first with Mr.
Second.
East, a second with Mr. Dewar. Any other conversation? And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And let's go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes of the May 18, 2023 meeting of the Tumwa Board of Directors. Do I have any questions or comments? We're looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We're almost halfway done. Look at that. We're rocking. Number 7, recognition and memoriam of Gino Martini, former chair of the Tumwa Board of Directors. Andy, why don't you come on down and give us some loving of our dear friend, Mayor Gino Martini.
Do you have that picture? Oh, there it is. There's the man right there. For the record, Andy Gephardt. Gino Martini was a great man. Gino Martini was a giant in our community. Gino Martini had that ability to make whoever he met feel like a friend. You met Gino and you were his immediate friend. And that, he had that, not everybody has that ability. Not everybody has the ability to, for lack of a better term, to get down with the little people. Gino could mingle with whoever it was, and you would feel like royalty with Gino. Gino started on the board in 2005. He became chair of the board in 2014. His struggles are well documented, but he kept a smile on his face, and he kept the positive attitude till the very end. He finally stepped down from the board in 2018, and that was a sad day. But for 13 years, he left an indelible mark on this utility. his leadership, his guidance, his just everyman attitude set this utility up to the point where we are today. We are one of the premier jurisdictions in this community, and I believe that. I feel strongly about that. And Gino Martini went a long way to get us to that point. He led us through the very dark Goldman Sachs debacle from, I forgot all about it until I was doing some talking about when he was on the board. He led us through the merger, and he led us through everyday life. And I will say, as I said before, he left an indelible mark on this utility, but I'll tell you, he left an indelible mark on me. And Gino Martini, I love you.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, for us from Sparks, and I don't want to just speak for myself, if anybody else has anything else to share, they're welcome to in this moment. You know, when I first started office, I thought I was his favorite. And then I learned everybody's his favorite, and I wasn't that important at all. He had an amazing way of doing what you just said, and I have tons of stories, but the truth is I'm glad we put this on here. Thank you for doing that. We all get to serve in a lot of capacities, but it's amazing the mark we get to leave as we lead, and he's one example of someone that I hope we can make kind of mark he did. Anybody else would like to say anything, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think of that Maya Angelou quote, it's not what you did, it's not what you said, it's how you made people feel with Mayor Martini. And he would always ask me, I'm a kid from Sparks and grew up in Sparks, and he would always ask me how my family was every time he saw me and knew my parents' names. And I think he knew every kid's parents' names in Sparks and was checking in on them and was a mentor to me when I worked at the city of Sparks and was a reference for all my jobs after that, because he was became such a close friend and someone that I looked up to. So I appreciate the tribute as well, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I wanted to say something as well. I had the pleasure of having Mayor Martini serve on boards that I was executive director for, and he was a real force on those. So he wasn't just a force at the Sparks, he was a force region-wide. And one of the most memorable quotes that I have for him, and he said it frequently, was he always said, "It's not a sprint, it's a marathon." And he had this approach, the long-term view, and we're in it for the region's benefit and for the long term, not just for today's one moment in time. So that sticks with me constantly when I think of him. And he was just a remarkable leader for our region. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you. And we're being their first family. He does have a service this Saturday, if anybody's interested, at 11 o'clock at the Rock, and plenty of room and a time of honor. So with that said, we'll move on to 8, presentation by the Nature Conservancy, Kirstilin and Mauricia Baca. Come on down. You're the next contestant.
Good morning. Cara Steelen for the record. I'm just here to provide a brief introduction to some Nature Conservancy staff who are going to give a presentation about their great work. So I'm sure, as you all know, the Nature Conservancy is critical in helping protect the Truckee River watershed. They own and manage the land around Independence Lake at the Independence Lake Preserve, where they complete forest management work, invasive species prevention, and much more, and habitat conservation, and much more that they'll discuss today. They are also one of our co-partners in the newly formed Middle Truckee River Watershed Forest Health Partnership, where we're working together to try to increase the pace and scale of forest management work throughout the watershed. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce the State Director of the Nevada chapter of the Nature Conservancy, Mauricia Baca.
Thank you so much, Cara. After such a lovely introduction, I don't know if I even need to say very much, but I will in turn introduce a couple of my colleagues who've joined me. I'm joined here by Chris Sega, who is our stewardship manager, and We also have Heather Geiger, who will be coming up in the dais. We don't want to overwhelm you with three of us sitting here at the same time. Heather Geiger is our Director for our Protection and Stewardship Strategy. And then we have one of our newer team members, Laura, your last name? Jones. Sorry. Laura is joining us for the summer to help us at Independence Lake. So thank you so much for inviting us to speak. It truly is an honor. The Truckee Meadows Water Authority has been a longstanding partner of the Nature Conservancy, and nobody can do anything in isolation. That's for sure. Everything depends on partnership and collaboration, and we are so deeply appreciative of the partnership and collaboration that we've received from the Truckee Meadows Water Authority over the years, from all levels. Your team has been incredible to work with, so thank you, and thank you, John, for inviting us to present. As was noted by Kara, I am the State Director for the Nature Conservancy. A brief introduction about me, a little bit about what we do as an organization, and then I'm going to turn things over to Chris Sega, who will give you a little bit of a deeper dive in terms of what we're doing in our programs, and Heather Geiger will do that as well. So, for those who may not be familiar with us, the mission of the Nature Conservancy is to conserve the lands and waters upon which all life depends. Bless you. A fairly significant mission. We do that at a very large scale. Just a brief overview of the Nature Conservancy. We're now, I think, in 82 countries. It's one of the things that I think is a really important element of the Nature Conservancy is that with the planet-sized problems that are facing us right now, we can work at planet-sized scales if we need to. The organization has set some fairly aggressive goals looking at 2030 and thinking about this really pivotal decade that we're in. And part of what I'm excited about actually is how our chapter, working through the Nature Conservancy's classic science-based approaches, using our non-confrontational, pragmatic, solutions-based approach, can really lean into some of the things that we are doing as an organization. I mentioned collaboration. Before I get into the update, I'll talk briefly about the 2030 goals. They're very big, and they're like 650 million hectares of land is part of what TNC is looking forward towards doing. And, right within the lane of the way we do things here in Nevada, 450 million hectares of that is looking at management adjustments and changes, which we know here in Nevada, so much depends on how we collaborate and work together to manage lands. To put that in perspective, because I had to look it up, I'm like, what does 650 million hectares even mean? It's basically two Indias.
Wow.
Or almost the size of the United States. And then there's 3 gigatons of carbon, which along the lines of 650 million, it's like apparently the theme number is about 650 million cars removed off the road. And we're leaning into big issues of land, water, and climate, which is how our chapter is organized. And we've been working in Nevada now for almost 40 years. It'll be 40 years in 2024. And we've organized our chapter around how we can affect land, water, and climate. I noted that Heather is the strategy director for protection and stewardship. That reflects a little bit of reorganization that we've had in our chapter. For those who might be familiar with us, we were organized on a very geography-based approach. We're really organized statewide now, so we're managing all of our preserves across the state, which is where Heather's leaning in on that. We also have a resilient waters program because, of course, we're in Nevada. Water is one of the most critical things that we could possibly deal with. You all know that better than anybody else. And it's different in different parts of Nevada, but we have some shared challenges like groundwater, for instance. And of course, all of us are affected by what happens with the Colorado River. We also have our resilient public land strategy. Again, we're in Nevada, so if you're going to work on land, you've got to engage on public lands and work in collaboration. So that's something that we really focus on. And then we have our energy, land use, and infrastructure program. Again, here we are in Nevada, in the epicenter of what's happening, I think, in terms of green energy. So our chapter is really organizing ourselves to answer those missions, those various elements. I'm excited to be joined here by Chris Sega and Heather Geiger so that they can give you a little bit more background. And I'm really just happy to be back here. Naomi knows me a little bit from
I
my
do.
first time around with the Nature Conservancy. I came to Nevada in 2005 to work with the Nature Conservancy. And then I left for a little bit to run a smaller nonprofit down south called Get Outdoors Nevada. But I'm thrilled to be back. Came back to TNC in 2020. And it's lovely to be able to be back in person with people. And just again, honored to be able to present to the Truckee Meadows Water Authority. I know you all had a closed door session, so I won't talk too much more. I'm going to hand this over to Chris Sega.
Thank you, Mauricia. Let's see.
And please do not hesitate to interrupt us with any questions that you might have.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and I'd like to thank all of you folks for the opportunity to give you an update on our activities at Independence Lake. So I've worked for the Nature Conservancy since 2007 and started working on our Truckee River project on the lower river, doing our large-scale river restoration work down there, starting at McCarran Ranch. And this last year, I started working as our stewardship manager, working to facilitate all the on-the-ground work that our staff does at preserves throughout the state. So we'll talk about the last winter, which we all know was one to remember. Obviously, we've sustained a significant amount of snow throughout the winter. And you can see that in February, we had a great deal of snow. And by the time we got to March, we had even more snow. And you can see in this photo from February 15th, which is in front of the caretaker's cabin at Independence Lake, this snow depth indicator on the left of the picture. And, there's 5 feet of it sticking out of the ground there. And by March, there is just about 6 inches of that thing sticking out of the ground. Those indicators are situated on top of the informational signs that we have at Independence Lake. And so in this photo, you can see there's roughly 10 to 12 feet of snow in that picture. The cabin is completely obscured. You can't see the chimney or any of those things. So it was quite a winter. We haven't seen that much snow at the lake for quite some time. We were finally able to get into the lake on May 19th. I hiked into the preserve with colleague Peter Gower in the picture there. And this is in the meadow in front of the preserve, right where the road goes in. And the road was impassable to vehicles on the way up, roughly 3 miles from the bottom of the hill all the way in at that point in time. The meadow had 2 feet of snow on it, and we had ice on the lake at that time. During this period, we had a lot of damage to infrastructure up there. Our solar systems, we had a lot of cracked panels up there. And the roof of the caretaker's cabin, we had some, the vent for the water heater got torn off. We broke a couple windows. And then, obviously, we had downed trees, wet soils, and lingering drifts, which delayed opening. And if you guys, obviously, you have access to all of the information from the SNOTEL and the NOAA briefings over the period of the summer that really, draw the extraordinary winter that we had. And you can see in the photo on the right at June 7th, we melted all that snow off, and all that snow is water that remains lots of saturated ground up at the preserve. So I'll go on to the forest health and resilience. And so we've been actively managing the forest up at Independence Lake, including prescribed fire, since we acquired the preserve in 2010. So we have implemented thinning projects on the preserve, actually before we started in 2009 through 2014, and then in 2017 and 18, and then last summer, we also implemented additional forest treatments. After the 2017 season where we had prescribed fire on the ground at Independence Lake, we have not been able to do that due to the extreme fire conditions and fire weather and drought. So we used mechanical thinning in 2022. And in previous years, that thinned material has been used in biomass power generation. Obviously, it's burned during the prescribed fire. You can see in the photo on the right, mastication, where we essentially grind the smaller trees. And then, obviously, if it's possible, logging is a way to reutilize that wood. In the current state up there, there's no opportunity to use biomass power generation. The larger trees can't be masticated, and there is no market for the lumber. So we've had to pile and then determine how we're going to keep that wood on site for to return that carbon and nutrients to the project. You can see on this map these shaded areas that are from our timber harvest plan that show the treatment areas and forest types that we have up at Independence Lake. And the area that we treated in 2022 is the green shaded area, and put the cursor over it here. It's this vicinity on the way into the lake. As you approach, we did that work in 2022, and we didn't finish it in 2022 with the operations were halted in October with the impending snow. It was a logging contract, and so they had used heavy equipment. They needed to get that out of the preserve, and they got it out at the last minute. Before, we got a great deal of snow, and they would have had their equipment trapped up there, and they would have just gotten it out of there at this point. And so we're going to burn these piles of treated material this fall, and they're rather large piles with large diameter wood, and so it may create an issue for us in burning those piles efficiently and safely. And so I was recently up there with our forest ecologists and a bunch of our fire personnel from the California chapter, looking at ways that we can efficiently and safely burn those larger piles, preventing excess smoke and getting complete combustion. So we may be using curtain burners on those piles, which is essentially a giant hair dryer that you put into the pit where you've got the fire, and it allows for complete combustion, prevents carryover ignition into the future year. So some of these piles are very large. We've got 15 feet of wood stacked up out of the ground in a hole that's 8 feet deep dug. So there's a significant amount of work that still needs to be done there. And in the future, we're going to treat the areas along the lake in this vicinity, and then on the south side of the lake, we have steep conditions. They're kind of called out as helicopter logging areas because of the steep slope, but we have a significant amount left to treat, and it's going to take us some creative ways to get that treatment done. Let's see. And, just on this issue, showing you the results of some thinning. This is some of the early thinning that we did at the lake. Wrong button. And in the exact same area, we see that there's quite a considerable opening up of the canopy. And, this work that we've done is to reduce potential wildfire intensity and more resilient forest and watershed. And obviously, this protects water quality and the aquatic ecosystems because we're we're preventing that catastrophic wildfire, which will then lead to sedimentation and all the problems that you guys are well aware of. I'll give you guys a brief update on the Lahontan cutthroat trout restoration, which is a big component of our work. As you know, we have a complete assemblage of the species associated with the endemic Lahontan cutthroat trout, and it's genetically intact and pure strain. It's not pure, but it's as close as we can get to it. And we've been implementing that work over the past, it's been going on for 20 years, but we've been doing it since we acquired the preserve. Brief run through on that work. It's carried out in conjunction with Trout Unlimited. It used to be USGS, California Division of Fish and Wildlife, and TNC. Basically, we tag fish and collect fin clips and to monitor the genetic purity of Lahontan cutthroat trout. They hybridize with rainbow trout, and we're trying to make sure that we keep that genetic purity going on in there. So we collect the fin clips and tag the fish with the pit tag, and then we monitor the spawning, and you can see in the picture on the left, we have a weir in the creek. This blocks the spawning trout from getting into the creek. They capture the fish, and they scan the tag. If it's already been tested for genetics, they determine the hybridization percent, and they either return that fish to the system or they cull that fish. And that basically allows us to characterize the species and do that work to increase the purity and make sure that we don't wind up hybridizing the fish too much. And then there's non-native species control that's been going on over the years. Brook trout, salmon, kokanee salmon, and brown trout have been removed from the lake in conjunction with California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So in 2022, we handled 169 fish, put in 55 new tags, and recaptured 114 fish. We passed 15 fish, which is a big number above the weir to spawn, and 11 of those were females. So the preliminary results of the genetics work indicate that 98% of the Lahontan cutthroat trout genetics in the lake are pure, which is good. The previous hybridization level last recorded was 87%, so it's going in the right direction. eDNA testing, which is environmental DNA testing of the upper creek, has to detect the presence of brook trout. That is pending, but the idea is that we've potentially controlled that species in the creek and in the lake. And the kokanee, brown trout, and rainbow trout populations are essentially controlled in the lake through all those efforts. One of the other things that goes along with that work is our aquatic invasives program with Truckee Donner Land Trust, running the boat program at the lake to keep outside watercraft and prevent the introduction of mussels and other aquatic invasives. The most recent surveys from last year in October indicate that we're not seeing any presence of that. With the big winter, we have delayed the opening of that program, and we intend to probably have that implemented and ready to go before July 4th. And then I'll hand it over to Heather to talk about the Middle Truckee River Watershed Partnership work that we're working on.
Great, thank you. Yes, and just to wrap up the presentation very quickly, we wanted to point out that TNC has been active in the Middle Truckee River Watershed Forest Partnership along with TUMWA, and then also we have the Truckee River Watershed Council, the Tahoe National Forest, and also the National Forest Foundation. So it's a really large group of a collaborative group that has been working on securing funding for forest treatments throughout the Middle Truckee River area so that we can hopefully reduce the likelihood of severe or catastrophic catastrophic fires that would negatively impact the watershed, and particularly the drinking water that would flow into the river system and be detrimental there. So this is just, you can see that are in the stage where some of the projects have been started. And that map may not be of the best quality, so we can provide you with a different, higher quality one. But the map that I'm displaying there shows that there are currently about 15,000 acres that are in treatment, with another almost 50,000 acres that we have targeted for forest health treatments over the next 5 to 7 years. Currently, there has been an agreement signed with all of the groups involved, and we have also identified a larger group of stakeholders. And those folks have come already to one stakeholder meeting that was held earlier this year. We will be holding one later this summer as well to engage the broader community surrounding the Middle Truckee River. And then we have also applied as a group for funding from the California Board of Wildlife, and are projected to receive hopefully in the neighborhood of about $5 million to continue this work on the forest thinning projects and the general forest health projects. And so that was just to provide a brief overview of that. And then we'd like to move into any questions that you might have for us. We'd be happy
Let's
to
go and
answer
open
them.
it up and let some of our, any board comments, any questions? I have a couple, but I will save mine till other people have fun. Mr. Reese, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning or afternoon, I'm not sure where we are now. For my part, I suppose I will direct my comments to the general inquiry, which is how can we as a body elected and appointed here better help and be better partners with the Nature Conservancy? Because certainly I think I individually and I think collectively, we have lots that we can do together, but maybe we are not doing it as well as we could or should, or what opportunities are there for greater engagement or support? Can you, because the report doesn't identify them. It talks about some of the things that we have done historically. It talks about some of the work that you're doing, which is excellent and good work. But what can we do better to support the efforts that you undertake?
Thank you, Councilman. That's a very generous question of you to ask, so deeply appreciated. I'll note that I think a continuation of the type of collaboration that we've already had is really what the Nature Conservancy would be looking forward to. We're very fortunate, as I noted when I began speaking, that we have such wonderful partners. And the team at Tumwa is a great team to work with. We've deeply appreciated that. So I think the support that you as elected officials lend to that team and encouraging that and supporting that collaboration is really critical. And what you can do as well is, of course, what you probably already do, which is educate your constituency and help them to understand the work that is being deployed in the field. I think one thing that I have realized, the Nature Conservancy used to use the motto of quietly conserving. I think I was speaking with Mike Kazmierski, who said, you've been miming conservation because you're not being loud enough about it. Yes. So I think sometimes we need to be louder about what we do and share successes. And that's something that I'm very much mindful of. I will note, we handed you folders. I neglected to share that and when I was speaking. So the folders, what they have there is some information about what we're doing as an organization and a chapter. You have our latest newsletter, some information about our board of trustees, who are really fortunate to have wonderful citizens of Nevada who are on our board of trustees. But I think what we're going to be focused on is not miming conservation, and it's not keeping so quiet about it, but really helping to amplify the message. So what we can do with you through amplifying the message, and of course, deeply appreciate the support for funding these efforts, because of course none of them happen without the funding. So I think continuing the great work that we're doing is what we would look forward to. And thank you. It's a very generous question to ask.
Well, and for my part, I'll just say, and then turn it over to my colleagues, if you see an area where we are not meeting those aspirational goals, or you think that there's a way for us to jump in, you'll let us know.
We certainly will. Thank you.
Always easier for us to do that on the front end than try to fix on the back end. So thank you for the opportunity to hear about the excellent work you're doing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ms. Dewar.
Yeah, thank you. So nice to see you, Mauricia. Some practical questions. I know that you were headquartered in our city of Reno City Hall, and then you moved Isabel Road near Moana. Are you yourself splitting time with you have two addresses here, Las Vegas and Reno, or what does that look like?
Excellent practical question. Yes, I do split my time. I guess a little bit of background. I came here to work on the Truckee River project, which is when I met Naomi. And so I initially was living in Reno, and then the Nature Conservancy moved me down south. And so I've been down south since then, living in Henderson. I split my time. I go back and forth. So we have our larger office, I would say, is our now Isbell Road office. And we have a somewhat smaller office, but a little bit of a growing office down in southern Nevada.
Okay.
So I go back and forth.
And then a question, I wanted to make sure you know that the Truckee River, it's called the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, is doing a natural resource plan. And I wanted to make sure that you get hooked up into that. And they are having a workshop, I think it's this weekend, potentially Saturday, I think. I'm not exactly sure of the day, but I'm pretty sure it's a workshop at Rancho San Rafael about the natural resource plan. They've been working on it for over a year. They've put together a tremendous amount of data about our region's natural resources. It would be great to get your organization's input into that. I don't know if anyone has been participating with them, but this is an opportunity. You know, they are begging people to to get involved, and you're a natural partner with that, and you may not even know that it exists. So it sounds like you may not.
Thank you. I may not. I will check with my team members to
Yeah.
see if they.
I don't see
are
any
tracking
faces
it,
nodding,
but, and thank you. And that's definitely, we talked about the fact that we're a science-based organization, and we do our science to share it as well. So whatever science and data and information that we have that we could lend to efforts such as that, anything that happens, whether it's a regional effort or city efforts, please, I would love to make sure that the avenues of communication are open. So we'll take that information back, and hopefully we can have somebody.
Yeah, I would love to have you share your data and information. They have an amazing website. And of course, all of the agencies here, including this one, are part of that. And it's going to inform decisions going forward, not just water, but water in a broader context. So back to you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, and thank you for all your great work in our state. Independence Lake is such a special spot, and I was just curious, will it be open to the public this summer?
Yes.
Okay.
It will be.
Even with all the
July
work?
4th.
Okay.
That's the best date that I can give as a potential date for us opening the watercraft portion of the program. But the preserve, if you want to go up there and hike, fish from the shore, visit the preserve, you can do that currently. It's essential. I mean, people can go up there in the winter. I mean,
Just rough roads.
yeah, rough roads. You can get up there now. It's not a problem as far as getting up there. The road right as you get in there, there's a couple of big puddles with the amount of water that we've got, and we're going to be working with the Forest Service we're meeting to talk about that access road and improvements that people have been asking for a long time, but that may be something that's coming up too, so.
I just would push our community to visit and also visit what you've done on the Truckee River as well. It's just, they're both magical places, and I think that, it's great that this board has supported that work, and continue on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the information, and I do appreciate a couple things that I'll quote you on. Planet-sized problems, I agree. We all affect each other, and I love that you're just diving in. And I know dreams are big, but if you don't take any bites of the apple, you'll get nowhere. But shared challenges yet different, and I think that affects legislation to everything we do, is that that's a great approach, and it's one that I would personally support. And I think what we try to do is a bit of that, understanding the South, North, even our rurals all have different needs and different approaches. The one thing, I've never visited the Nature Conservatory, and I say that, I'm embarrassed to say so, I guess, but I've been out by Independence Lake, so maybe I have and didn't know it, but I say that I'm interested, and I'd like to know more. So I don't know if anybody else here is brave enough to admit they've not been there, but I'll tell you I haven't. And if you guys ever, go by myself, I'll get lost and hurt myself. That's a bad idea. But if you guys are ever going out there and please get a hold of John, and he can come with me, be my bodyguard, make sure that no animals eat me or anything crazy. But it'd be really great to go see what you do, because just other boards we serve on, we all of what you're doing, we understand the necessity of it, because you affect things that affect us greatly. So we appreciate that. And I really appreciate even what Devin Reese spoke about and what you said. You need to be louder, and we are loud. We're obnoxious sometimes, but we're loud, and we can get out there and we can say things that maybe in a way that's a little more forceful than you guys feel you can. So the better you can equip us.
I would certainly invite you. We'd love to put that together. I'll make sure that we'll reach out. And I know that there's open meeting law rules around how many people from a group can be together. Is there anything, does that apply to?
Tours.
As long as we don't talk about
Okay.
policies and things of that, if all of a sudden you get a $100,000 check from us, we're in trouble. But
We would love to, no checks required, just making sure that that's on the record. We would absolutely welcome the opportunity to bring this group together, or however we'd like, whatever would be the best
I really
structure.
think it'd be great.
Of course, there is the McCarran Ranch property.
Sure.
That's one of the amazing success stories, because coming here to work on that so many years ago, I remember when we first developed the shade pavilion that was there, it had an unobstructed view of the river. And now it has a very obstructed view, which is great because it means that the trees have grown and that things are coming back, and it's so inspiring to see that. So we'd love to host you at the McCarran Ranch or at the River Fork Ranch or at Independence Lake, or if you come on down south, down to our preserves in the Oasis Valley. So yes, please, we'll work with
Wonderful.
John and we'll develop that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your time. We very much appreciate it.
We're going to move on to a big conversation we've all kind of started in one way or another. This is the discussion and possible approval of changes to Tumwater Board bylaws. And John Zimmerman, we're going to put you on the spot if you want to guide us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So based on the May board meeting where we wanted to have a rotating chair, I took a stab at changing the bylaws, and with Ms. Cavilia's help, offered up a red line version where if you look on page 2, it's basically the first 3 pages, but on page 2, that's the discussion you'll have today about how to elect the chair and vice chair. The one thing to point out there is under the cooperative agreement, it does say that the chair shall be elected annually. And so the way and my understanding from the May board meeting was to have a 2-year rotating basis among the 3 member entities. And so I think you can still do that through the bylaws. You'll have to elect the chair annually, but you can agree amongst yourself, according to the bylaws, to make it intended to be a 2-year rotation for chair. And then the other items are just small cleanups. On page 1, the meeting days of the week were incorrect with how our standard practice is. And then on page 3, it didn't have a place for virtual attendance. So if the need ever arises outside of an emergency for virtual attendance, we wanted to make sure that we didn't run into any quorum issues. But other than that, we tried not to change anything else to make it as simple as possible for today's discussion. And the other thing to note is I believe the board wanted these bylaws to be effective immediately so that the next agenda item with the election of chair and vice chair could come under whatever changes you agree to.
So Ms. Hill brought this. I'm going to let her start if she has anything she'd like to say, and then or share or whatever's, and then we'll open it up.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. And I think that this has been a long time coming, and I think actually Councilwoman Breckus asked for this when I first started on this board. And we have a 2-year kind of rule as well at the Board of County Commissioners. But I don't know if everyone is comfortable with that on this board, so I think we should have that discussion. If it should be an annual rotation or a 2-year rotation. At the board level, we enacted that relatively, we changed our rules like in the last year over that, and I'm not sure if it's going to be something we stay with. So that's the only change that may need to happen verbally on this, of just saying it's an annual rotation, but I want to hear the other board feedback on that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you for the work that went into doing it and making the red line copy. That's often easier for me to be able to review it that way. So I appreciate that. For my part, and to Commissioner Hill's point, I would prefer to see an annual rotation because I think we have an annual for both the chair and the vice chair, and so you're really getting 2-year commitments out of people as they rotate through. So for my part, I appreciate and would be more in favor of an annual commitment. But that's really my only change.
Yeah, thanks again. I think I made the motion last time. I don't recall speaking to a 2-year commitment. I think that Mr. Reese has made a good point that if we cycle it through with a vice chair and chair, you're basically serving a 2-year commitment, and it's much like the way that we do the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency. We rotate, but we have a vice chair and chair. So that's kind of the way I would like to see it myself, but the other thing I wanted to mention was back on regular meetings, this may seem small, but I'm not sure, is there a way that we don't have to stipulate the time that we start at 10? Could we just say that we'll regularly convene on the third Wednesday? And I guess I have some thoughts about that, for a longer term. It's just very hard being that plugged in. Some meetings we may want to start at 9:30 and others we might want to go at 10:30, or I just would wonder if that's okay, and I don't know if how the board would feel about that. So,
I mean, I think it's up to the board's discretion on when they want to start, but I'll defer to Ms. Caviglia on how to go about it.
Yeah, I do believe that you would be able to take that out here. You just have to make sure when you do your open meeting law publications that you clearly delineate when your time is.
yeah.
And make sure that individuals understand if the time has changed.
Well, it gives us flexibility, and the other thing that I'm a little concerned about once or twice a year, Tumwa moves their meeting to accommodate the Reno City Council meeting, which it conflicts with usually the July meeting. And so I wasn't sure if we stipulate, it must be the third Wednesday. Often the Tumwa meeting moves to Thursday to accommodate. So, we already were in violation for probably a long time because it says we're having 2 meetings a month and they're on the second and fourth Wednesdays. So what's our thoughts there? Do you know this issue?
Yeah, I think from the perspective of the bylaws, I think it's okay. I mean, the bylaws talk about the normal meeting time, but I think we often cancel the July meeting and we combine the November and the December meetings in order to not conflict and have one meeting in between the holidays as well. So I think you can keep the bylaws as far as normal meeting times.
Oops.
And then
He's really passionate about it.
and then outside of that, I think it's from an open meeting law perspective, if we decide to change, as long as we're noticing under the open meeting law correctly, then I think we're not in violation of anything.
Well, if everybody's okay with that, I don't want to already set us up for a problem, and I don't want to hear later, well, we just set our meetings for every Wednesday, and we can't move it, the very next month to Thursday, as soon as we've just set this up. So and I don't want to hear if we decide to move the time, that, suddenly we can't move the time because in the bylaws, how rigidly we're going to follow this.
So the one thing I do want to say, it doesn't, either way we go, it's fine actually on that. And the fact that we can, I guess it could bring clarity, but the bylaws do stipulate that you can move it around as well. That's what John's saying. So there's other pieces to it. But if you wanted to make it
Could we
work.
put that as just, but maybe changed at the direction of the board or something?
I think it's, that's something we can definitely talk about. I want to also share on the 1 year to 2 year. There's benefits in both, and I think it's something important to realize and take away anything we've been through. Think of the long future here, because we can always change them again. We have the privy to change bylaws at any time. So I can talk about other boards. All the different boards we have different bylaws. Some of them you do serve for 2, some you do for 1. And this particular one, the one thing that I would say is when you change it up, sometimes the continuity is one thing that I think is a strength. I honestly can tell you I don't have something where it has to be 2 years. I didn't write this. It's an idea. But I think for sake of the rotation and the consistency, I think I do prefer 2 years. And I say that knowing that we're about to vote and I do want to be chair, and that's not, I'll disclose, I mean, nobody is doing that. But I would say the same thing if somebody else was going to be chair, because after that, someone will be chair for 2 years, give them a chance to get in there, really hold on to it, understand it, and then the next rotation. I mean, in some ways, the rotation, it just means it will bump around a little bit more, a little more quicker. But that continuity, I do think is important to realize before we just try to make it just move. Like I said, both ways are done in our boards. I don't think it's a bad or a good, but I tend to prefer the continuity a little bit more, that we're here a marathon, not a, like that piece of it. So that'd be my preference. Again, I'm not stuck on it though, by any means. Please, Ms. Breckus.
I see the advantages too. I do think on the boards I've served on, and I haven't served on RTC, which is the smaller, 5 is much smaller, and has probably as much authority as this board, unique functions. But I know they rotate annually. I think here we've had too much continuity, frankly, to the disservice of other people being able to step up on leadership. Now, the 1 year versus 2 year, I don't know. People switch out all the time. Someone doesn't, someone resigns. That's, unfortunately happens, or leaves their office. Someone comes in through the election cycle, and then you have someone who could be in, with a chair that they didn't vote for a year plus, and saying, so I don't know. I kind of like the year, because I think on a small board like this where we're rotating out, I mean, Reno's at the disadvantage in terms of who gets to serve. And I think I'm the most senior person on here who has seen, on this board, who's seen, Reno's never chaired it. But I think that with a small board like this, where Sparks has outweighed it and the county has a role, you've got one person who can be the specialist there, but with that rotation, the other people really need to step up. They can't mail it in, and I think the boards work better when everyone's in line to be chair, so everyone steps up and isn't just, okay, this is my assignment. So I go with a year, frankly, at this point. But, I didn't know what the county had recently done, and obviously you had a big discussion on that, I would presume, but I would go with a year.
I just want, it'd be good to hear your preference, and then it can be said.
Yeah, actually, I have no preference on this one. Just like you said, there are values to either side of it. Yes, there's a nice part to the continuity, but I truly believe if you've stepped up into that position as the chair, that you are going to do everything you can to engage staff and work with them and take that position on. So I really think whether it's 1 year or 2 years, it really doesn't matter in my opinion.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My preference is 1 year. I echo the sentiments of my colleagues.
Okay, I think, and if someone wants to add in, I don't know that there's really, I do think that the bylaws do lay out the ability to move around meetings, but at the same time, if there's any confusion, then there's no reason we don't make it to where we take out the 10 a.m. and just say weekly. That's,
Or monthly.
Monthly. And that's fine with me. So with that said, if there's a motion, we will keep moving forward.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to adopt the proposed changes to the bylaws with the following modifications and to make them effective immediately. The modifications would be: 1, a modification to identify the ability of the board to meet on a monthly basis and flexibly, however that language would be described by our legal counsel. And 2nd, to require that the chairpersonship would be on an annual basis and rotating as consistent with our previous direction.
Second.
We have a first and a second. It did not include vice chair in his motion. Do we need to do something with that?
That would be up to the discretion of the board, Chair.
I'm not sure I understood the inquiry.
You just said chair, and there's a vice chair on there. I just want to make sure
It
we're,
just says chair and vice chair annually.
do you want to add vice chair into
Well,
that?
all of them would be on an annual
Okay.
basis under my motion.
Would that be in the first? We still have a
Yeah,
second.
it's fine.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? No. Passes unanimously, and we are moving forward. Let's go ahead and now have a discussion, an action on nomination of election of chair and vice chair and request for board adoption of resolution number 317, appointing a chair and vice chair for fiscal year 2024.
Chairman?
Yes, please.
I'd like to nominate you as our chair, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to nominate Councilwoman Dewar as our vice chair.
So we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm not going to support this. I think it's time for Reno to be chair. And, I've been on this board, I think, longer than anyone by quite a bit. And my time is coming, due. I'll be done soon. And I want to see Reno be chair, and I would like to be in that succession myself. And this motion does not include either of those right now, today, so I will not be supporting the motion.
And I support this motion. I say this, had the honor of being vice chair. I do know we walked into an interesting situation from the time we've been in office. Not one that I created, by the way. It's one that we all kind of walked through and did different things. I'm very supportive of where we're at now and look forward to seeing the future. So with that said, I appreciate your sentiments, and at the same time, would be honored to be chair if the board would agree with that. So, with that said, we do have a motion on the floor. We have first, second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
And that passes with Breckus not agreeing. So we move forward. Well, it is an honor to be chair, and we have our vice chair.
Thank you.
And we will continue to move forward. So now we are on to discussion and action confirming general manager appointment of Peter Pribble as trustee to fill the remaining term of Richard Merrigan to the 501c9 post-retirement medical plan and trust ending on December 31st, 2024. Ms. Jessica Atkinson.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record,
Did I say his name right?
You were close, Pribble. For the record, Jessica Atkinson. With this agenda, we're looking for the board to confirm the general manager's appointment of Pete Pribble to our 501c9 post-retirement trust. Tumwa has two post-retirement medical trusts. Both are closed trusts, meaning no new entrants into the trusts. These trusts are intended to provide assistance in paying for insurance premiums post-employment, so in retirement. And each of these trusts has a document which guides the administration of the trust. This particular trust's document indicates that we have 4 trustees. 2 of those trustees are appointed by the general manager and are MPAT employees, meaning non-represented positions. And 2 of the members, or 2 of the trustees, are from the bargaining unit group appointed by IBEW. So we had Drew Merrigan, who the board previously confirmed his appointment. He recently accepted a position that is not a bargaining unit position, which means he's no longer eligible to sit as a trustee in that seat. So IBEW has nominated Pete Pribble, who's accepted the appointment. He's been with us since 2006, and so we're just looking for the board to confirm his appointment to the trust.
Any discussion? No discussion. I have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I move to confirm the general manager's appointment of Peter Pribble as a trustee to fill the remaining term of Richard Merrigan to the 501c9 post-retirement medical plan and trust ending December 31, 2024.
Thank you. We do have our first.
Second.
Have a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Tell him congratulations. Next, we are heading on to presentation results of 2023 legislative actions and bills. Stephanie Morris and Leo Drostoff. I hope you guys got some sleep after all that fun.
We did.
I don't know what's happening. Whoa.
I think Mr. Drostoff is on the line, but given the short amount of time, I'm going to give a very high-level overview. Okay. And I had some really nice bar graphs, and they got blown up because everything is changing like every day in terms of what's been waiting for the governor to sign and what's been signed and what's been vetoed. So I'm just going to give a very high-level overview and then talk about a couple bills specifically. So we started out tracking over 120 BDRs and bills in the beginning of session, and we ended up with 89 bills. So of those BDRs, 89 became bills. And some we, changed and we tracked. So of those 89, 40 died, 11 were vetoed. 1 was pending as of this morning. That was AB 261 that Mr. Folletta spoke to most of this group about, and that was actually signed by the governor and is now law. So that means that 38 have passed of the ones that we were tracking. And just to kind of give you a little bit of idea of the types of bills. Of governance and boards and election, we were tracking 11 bills and 3 passed. Emergency and risk management, we were tracking 6 bills and 2 passed. We're tracking 1 PERS bill, and that also passed. Energy bills, there were 3, and none of those passed. Infrastructure bills, there were 4 of those, and 2 of those passed. And HR bills, there were 12, and 7 of those passed. And then open meeting, there were 4, and 3 of those passed. By far, our biggest groups were, so property, there was 2, and both of those passed. Public works, there was 18, and only 5 of those passed. And in water, we had 27, and only 12 of those passed. So it's a very high-level overview. We've talked about a lot of these bills in detail. AB 20, that was a bill that this board supported, and that changed the definition of who could be eligible for clean water funding under the SRF, and that was passed and signed. AB 140 made Juneteenth a state holiday, that passed. AB 261, which we also discussed in great detail, and that was the bill Mr. Folletta spoke about this morning that had the reports for economic development for the state consider water use and water efficiency in those reports. And then SB 11, I wanted to just say a few words about this. We didn't talk about this a lot, but this is for the Department of Public Safety to come up with regulations to monitor and register drones or unmanned aerial vehicles. The only reason I just wanted to flag this is we do use, TUMWA does use drones, in large part our engineering and sometimes physical security. And so we will be tracking those regulations as they are moving forward. And so,
I have a question on that one.
yes.
So one of the things I've learned is that they've made it so difficult for government to use them, but private sectors are using them like crazy without any of these, any comparables of need. And so you almost, it almost handicaps our use a lot of times. Is there any fix of that?
Well, this bill actually, I think, was attempting to sort of address that because what it was doing was saying you could use it, but you can't take photos. And if you do take photos, they can't be used, or imagery or videos, they can't be used as evidence in several kinds of proceedings. And in order to not go into the weeds about it, I'm happy to give you a summary of that. But we will be tracking those as they come. It also was regulating where you could buy drones, in particular because of security reasons of where that information would be going. And then finally, SB 113, that was the bill we talked a lot about. That was a bill related to making changes to the critical groundwater management areas and how they could be defined, and that bill did pass. And then finally, I would just say that coming out of this session, there was a number of vetoes, and Mr. Drozdoff can talk about that. I think over 70, and that was last week. So it's an interesting session. There are, general session, and there were 2 special sessions that didn't relate to anything of our concern specifically, and AB 387, which was the bill that everyone was talking about in terms of conjunctive management, which really is not conjunctive management that we at TUMWA do all the time, is managing our surface water and groundwater resources to be efficient and to allow groundwater basins to rest. It's really the state engineer's regulation of surface water and groundwater at the same time, which in large part have been separate. And so I think coming out of this session, that will definitely be back. There was a lot of attempts. We worked very hard with a number of stakeholders to come to some language that would study and be more would give the state engineer the opportunity to provide more specific data about where that connection between surface water and groundwater really exists that needs that type of regulation, and why the existing tools wouldn't be sufficient. And that did not get any traction. So I think we will want to continue to work in the interim session and kind of pay attention to that and figure out, some ways that work, because it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. It's just very complicated and difficult, and it can't be done haphazardly. And with that, I don't know if Mr. Drozdoff's on the phone and wants to add anything before we open it up for questions.
Leo, are you on the phone, sir?
Hear me?
Go ahead.
But the only thing I would add, just tearing off of what Steph said, is that there were 75 vetoes by the governor. That is definitely a record, probably a record that will stand for a while. In an individual session, the previously we had, in a session there were 40 odd votes, 40 odd vetoes, but 75 is definitely a record. I think obviously the legislature and the governor need to are of different parties and probably need to work with each other a little bit in the interim as well to get to know each other. It's a tough situation where a bunch of elected officials come into office and immediately start a legislative session. As to AB 387 and the concepts that we as TUMWA sort of floated with other entities, while it's true that they gained no traction legislatively, I think there was agreement amongst many of the parties about the need to do that. So whether there's a legislative direction to continue the discussion or not, my take on it is that there will be opportunities to, in fact, participate and to the extent lead where necessary some of these discussions as it pertains to conjunctive management.
And Steph Morris, for the record, I just want to thank our chair and our whole subcommittee for sticking in there with us and giving us direction and jumping into the details on a lot of this technical information. So thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question, follow-up. First of all, it was great working with you. You're super smart on this stuff, so thanks for being our muse, so to speak, and our guide. And
You're
same
awesome
to
too, Leo.
I was just going to say, and same to you, Mr. Drozdoff. Without you, we would not be here. I had a follow-up question on AB 387, the conjunctive management. I wondered, and we talked about this at Western Regional just earlier, if you thought this was so critical to the state engineer, do you think they already have the authority that they could enter into a rulemaking to address the issue maybe versus having a bill?
I think, Steph Morris, for the record, I think that they can't do it the way that they're trying to do it in the legislation.
Okay, without the
I think that
legislation.
they do have tools to be able to do it. It's just that they need to make certain findings prior to jumping to the next sort of regulatory tool set that they have. So in my opinion, they have the tools to do it. It's just they need to have a better record and better process.
Gotcha. And then would it be possible on the 27 water bills, would it be possible the 12 that passed, could you send us like a follow-up, once this is all done with the vetoes and all, just the list of the 27, which passed, and then if they were significantly amended, because I think to get past, one of these had to be significantly amended, which was the SB 113, the groundwater.
Steph Morris, ironically, it was not significantly amended.
Really?
Even though we had made a lot of suggestions to amend it, there were some. But yes, I'm happy to do that. I have, tables of what passed and sort of the summary of the changes and the impacts to TUMWA, and then the PDF of it linked. So I can provide that to the board.
That would be great.
Yeah.
If you could group the water ones separate, in other words, don't list them all in order. And if there's some administrative ones, I'm sure that would be very helpful to us here too, to understand what changes impact our staff and our processes, and group those. I just think that would be super helpful.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Preckis.
I do have a question. What is the governor's date for signing? Has that passed?
So, Steph Morris, for the record, it depends on when it went to the governor's office.
Okay.
He has 10 days. If he doesn't sign within 10 days, then it becomes law. I think, though, I want to say, based on my calculation, that Monday was the last day.
Oh, okay.
But unfortunately, the website isn't up to date. So, AB
uh-huh.
261 still shows as pending in the governor's office. But if you go on the Secretary of State website, like Mr. Drozdoff did, between our meetings, it shows that it passed.
Oh, okay, okay. And then the other question is, you mentioned there were 3 open meeting law bills that signed, but on your chart, or that passed, but on your chart, I only see 2. Are you sure there was a third one that went forward?
Yeah, I'm sure I can,
Can
I
you
have
just-
all of it. I can,
Okay,
after the
okay,
meeting, I'll
yeah,
check in with you.
Yeah,
because
because I
have
only see 52 and 219 on your list, but I maybe have missed it, so, okay, thank you.
sophomore, sometimes we categorize things and there's multiple categories. And
Yeah.
so I can give it to you after the
Okay,
meeting. I have
okay.
it. Thanks.
So I have one thought and one question. So one is we did hear that there was a PERS one that passed. That would be something that would be good for us to understand if there's another increase coming or something to the budget.
I can send that in the summary
Thank you. I
compiled
appreciate
and
that.
give you the implications. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that the thing that we're looking for on all our boards is any of those phantom ghosts that are laying around that we need to really pay attention in the next couple of years, try to get our voice in. And I'd say that please let us know how we can do that. I know we talk all the time, but at large, we'll continue to bring back legislation to all of us. And I say that they're not real legislation, they're not in session, but this is when we do the work we do, and this is the best time to do the work we do. So there will be some conversations, there might even be some travel, there might be some stuff, and the more we can stay involved is great. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. We are moving on to presentation of Q3 financials for fiscal year 2023, and Mr. Matt Bowman. Nice shirt, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, officially, and members of the board. In front of you is the staff report. This is our third quarter year-to-date financials, so it's financial information through March 31st. This staff report, like the ones that you see every quarter, compares our actuals to budget and then also actuals to prior year on a year-to-date basis. When you're looking at this and you're looking at the budget numbers, specifically in the operating expense section and services and supplies, you'll recall back in February, we did augment our budget for the year as a result of prices for power and water treatment chemicals. So I'll hit the highlights and I'll keep this pretty brief. Please ask any questions that you may have. Through the third quarter, water revenue was lower by about $2 million, or about 2%. That has changed so far in the fourth quarter. That gap has widened, as you might expect, and I'll touch on that a little bit more just with the unbelievably wet spring that we've had. Our revenues have taken a pretty massive hit in the fourth quarter. The other highlight, developer contributions or connection fees are substantially lower than budget during the year, as well as lower than prior year, really because of the slowdown in growth. I think we're seeing it on our side in connection fees, and so that affects someone's cash balance. So we're lower there. On the positive side, hydro revenue is up about $600,000. So big thanks to that group for keeping those running. Andy's team doing a great job. We expect good things for the rest of the summer from the hydro side of the business. So with that, we'll dive in a little bit. So on the second page, we look at revenue, and I mentioned water sales. I think what I'll touch on here is just in the fourth quarter. I think I'm projecting that we're going to be another $5 million or so lower than budget just in the quarter. It's significantly more than I've ever seen since I've been here, and I think really than TUMWA has seen potentially in the history of TUMWA in just a couple of months. You all know this, but for the month of May at the airport, we had almost 2.5 inches of rain. Average is about 1/2 inch. And so that obviously affects production and water sales. Again, hydro is doing well. We're expecting that to continue. Other operating sales are lower. There's some fees in there that are related to new business. And so that's with the slowdown of construction, we're seeing a slowdown in that category as well. Next page is operating expenses. I mentioned augmentation of services and supplies. You can see that that's in line with budget. We expect that to continue through the fourth quarter. Don't expect any issues there through the end of the year. Next section is other non-operating. I'll just point out here a positive note. Our investment earnings is higher than budget. That's a result of some rising rates as our investments mature, we reinvest, we're able to take advantage of those rising rates, and that's another benefit of having a sizable cash balance is that money earns us money, as we all know. The last section of the income statement is capital contributions. So this is where our connection fees are. And as far as cash connection fees go, we're about $9 million lower than budget through the third quarter. We're seeing that pace pick up a little bit in the fourth quarter, but we're still behind even in the fourth quarter. So that affects our cash balance as construction slows down. Lastly, I'll touch on our cash position. So compared to last year, because of the things I've talked about, we're about $9 million lower in cash as of a year ago. So that's with higher operating expenses, lower water sales, and then our lower capital contributions as well. That's where we're at. So nothing, as far as Toma's, current financial position, it's certainly not time to panic or anything like that. But definitely a unique year from what we saw with our electric power costs, our water treatment costs, and then getting hit really this quarter with the great weather. I mean, don't get me wrong, you look up on Peavine, it's a shiny green. I mean, it's cool, but it hits us on the revenue side. So with that, again, those the highlights. Happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Ms. Breckus?
I have 3 questions. Where are we at on our rate hike schedule? Are we second year of 3?
So we're actually in June, 1st of June, it was the last of 5 scheduled.
Last of 5 scheduled,
2.5%,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
And so we're currently in the process of developing a rate plan.
Okay,
going
so that's the
forward.
next thing.
Yep.
Okay. And then, the capital contributions, missing those, that's just, in my experience, that and some of the signs you see it coming out of community development departments are like the early signs, and property tax is way late, total lag, and the sales tax, which is also suffering right now, is kind of middle. And I just wonder, with these signs that are early, and give you time, are you rethinking any of the position add-ons that came through on the budget? Because weren't there some add-ons where that were growth facilitated?
Not as much on that weren't related to growth, to connection fees.
Helping new development, like an engineer to help new development? I thought there were.
We did have an engineering manager in there, but that was more on the construction side.
Okay.
We did defer a planning engineer.
Okay.
in the budget.
So you're not rethinking some of those add-on positions yet?
Not at this point.
Okay. And then the third question, thank you, Mr. Chair, really is, and I guess it's related to the capital contributions, is the One Water commitments. Because I spent some time after Reno closed out their budget looking at, our sewer fund, which is absolutely your partner on the One Water. I mean, if we don't really see it, and I think it's time to really look at each other's books and see how they're all going to come together. And I'm trying on both sides to get a sense of how what you've parked over for that, what your annual spend down is for that, and then what you have, projecting out on that. And I just haven't really seen that, from you guys to give me the confidence that you feel the numbers are all out there. I mean, maybe you can just tell me, hey, it's on CIP page 63 or whatever, but I don't know. Do you have a comment on that?
It is, and it is in our CIP, so you can see the full project costs in there. And then obviously, City of Reno's a big partner in that project. But yeah, we modeled the whole cost of the project for TUMWA and how we would pay for it, which is really through it's through connection fees, it's through the Water Resource Sustainability Fund.
Oh, okay.
As well as some projected actual water rights sales from that.
Okay, and if I could just ask, that modeling is flexible enough that you can run in new numbers if you're starting to see these capital stuff crash a little bit too?
Yep, absolutely, and we would do that.
Any other questions? I have one comment that one is, none of this is surprising. I don't think it surprises any of us in budget. And as we see the rain, we celebrate, but we know the consequences of it as well. So I don't think there's anything on that. I do think we want to continue to watch, please remind us how and when we use our overflow funding, or what did we call it?
Yeah, rate stabilization fund.
Yeah, and when does that come in?
There's several ways we could look at it. And really, I think when it was set up by the board, the definition and the requirements for use was pretty broad, which I think is a good thing. It gives us some flexibility. Really where it's going to come into play is with our rate planning. So as we develop our rate plan over the next years, whether that's 5, 10 years or an ongoing basis, we're going to consider use of the rate stabilization fund for periods exactly like what we are going through this quarter, because that's really where we could look at it and say, without that, we really think we need X percent next year and then so on, but let's sort of level that out a bit, use the fund in the first year, repay it over the next 3, and sort of stabilize things. I mean, that's what it's there for.
Well, because we are in such cycles, so I appreciate, that was really, I thank you for your report. And do you want us to officially accept this? Was that?
Yeah, usually you don't take
Okay,
action on it.
very good. Well, thank you so much, I appreciate it. Okay, we are on to the general manager's report. Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss one? Oh, discussion and possible authorization for general manager to sign a contract between Tumwa and Washoe County regarding public fire hydrant maintenance. Mr. Andy Gephardt, please come and share. I didn't mean to skip you, sir.
If you skip that, then Dave would be sitting here all day.
Oh, that's why he's here. Well, then I ask that we move that down to 19.
For the record, Andy Gephardt. Before you have a report, I'll keep this brief. Currently, Truckee Meadows Water Authority does the maintenance for the hydrants in the city of Sparks. In 2014, the board directed us to kind of treat all the entities equal and work with the county and the cities of Reno to, work with their hydrants or do the maintenance on their hydrants. In 2016, we came to an agreement with City of Reno, have been maintaining their hydrants. The county and us and Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District have been working on this since 2014, and we are finally in agreement. So the agreement is substantially similar to the other 2 agreements. We take on the maintenance, no cost to the county. Any further repairs that they need, they can choose to do them themselves. They can hire us to do them, but it's totally at their choice at that point in time. Same as the city of Reno, same as the city of Sparks. So I'm asking you to approve this so we can get it off the books forever.
Does this require us to hire anybody new?
We already put it in the budget. We put 4 people in.
Thank you.
So yeah,
But it's already in the budget, and it's already approved.
it was already in the budget.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So how many people altogether do we have then? You said 4 people.
I would hire, I'll need 2 crews for a light crew, 2 light crews for the maintenance of the hydrants in the county. We have 2 in Reno, 2 in Sparks right now. We have like 3.5 in Reno, so.
So, so how many people do we already have working on this? That's what I'm asking.
For
2 crews of 2?
For the county, we
No, altogether.
Okay.
Just altogether.
Altogether for the fire hydrants?
Yeah.
Okay, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, and 8 more, 16.
8 people now, and you're proposing,
No, that's including the 4 that we hire, that'll be 16.
right, but we have 8 people now. Is that right? Working on
We
this?
have 12 people now.
12 people now. We have 12 people now, and you're proposing adding 4? Okay, so this becomes a pretty big operation. 16 people?
Yeah.
Working on this?
Yep.
I just, out of, what's our total Tumwa employee base? I just wondered.
About 240.
240, okay. That's good to know, too. Okay, well, I just wanted to better understand it. I didn't know that we had that many people working on it already.
Yeah, we've been,
I knew you were doing it, but I didn't know it was that big of a job.
yep, it's a big job.
Ms. Brickus?
Are they going up to incline?
No, it's only
Yeah.
hydrants that are in Truckee Meadows Water Authority service territory that are not in City of Reno or City of Sparks service territory.
Yeah, okay.
The one thing we did learn is this is the betterment for the community at large. It does help everybody, and
Oh, for sure. I mean,
it actually even saves money in some ways, so I think it's very good.
yeah.
So, but welcome to the table. I'm so glad you guys
Oh.
decided to 7 years later get in the
Yes,
conversation.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was in a pivotal meeting about this, right as our chairman was leaving the board. So I'm really excited that we're moving forward with this. Hopefully, our board did approve this agreement yesterday as
So
well.
they just needed you at the table, is what you're saying.
It's all about me. No.
No, you
But
don't get
it's
to-
very
Every day.
exciting. It's funny. It takes so long to make a decision like this, and then you've got a tipping point, whatever that time may be. So, and Chief Moore, I think before he retires, this was a big thing he wanted to get off his plate.
Sure,
So,
that's wonderful. Any other discussion?
move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We do have a second. Any other discussion before we move on? And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It does pass unanimously. Good job.
Thank you very much.
I'm proud of you guys. Okay, general manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real briefly, so Tahoe is about 1 foot from maximum capacity. I don't know if it'll quite get to full, but it'll be very close. For now, just a bit of housekeeping. We're going to keep the July meeting on the books right now.
Oh, we are.
But as soon as possible, I will let you know whether we're going to cancel it or not. It's probably more likely than not that we will cancel, but I will let you know as soon as possible. And then also, you're all invited, encouraged to come out for Tumwa's annual picnic on August 12th out at the Verdi Hydro. Your family and friends are welcome, and we would love to see you there. It's a great time to celebrate all we've done and our employees. And we're also, this year, it'll be the first time since, I think, pre-pandemic that we're bringing back Andy Gebhardt, the pit master of the barbecue out there, which is something all the employees are very excited about. So we're looking forward to that, and it'd be great to see you. And then last, I just wanted, on the note of the Nature Conservancy presentation, I appreciated having them here, but I also wanted to recognize and embarrass Cara Steeland. Unfortunately, she left the building, but she's also, her role was hydrologist. It's also including watershed coordinator at this point, so she'll be doing a lot of work with the Nature Conservancy and other upstream partners in the future. So I'm disappointed I couldn't embarrass her, but I at least wanted to get that on the record. Thank you.
I do want to throw out there two thoughts. One is July. I just want to ahead of time tell you I will be traveling. I'll be for National League of Cities. And so if that's the case, then
I'll be here.
Then we'll need to have that filled. The other portion, for that picnic, so I go each year, and I say this not picking on anybody who does or does not go, but I'd love to have a picture of our board there. So if we could say the time we're gonna come together to the best of our ability, instead of, I do think people go, but I think we miss each other in the day if whoever does go, and it's just kind of, it becomes a random thing that people don't really see that we were there. And I do think our staff needs to know we very much are there and we care. So if we could find a time that we just say, and you can help communicate that.
Is the event 11 to 2, 11 to 3? What's the time?
We usually start at around 11, correct? Yeah,
11 to
11 to 3.
So can we just say 11:30, just
Or how about 12?
generally? 12? Okay, we'll say 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I think I can be there. I haven't really looked, but that's 12 o'clock, hopefully that works. But we will communicate.
Perfect.
So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, can someone share with us the location? Like an invite, a calendar?
We received a flyer previously.
Oh, I haven't
So
seen
you'll
it.
send a calendar invite?
Yeah, we'll send a calendar invite to the board with directions, but it's basically out at the Verdi Hydro plant.
They send a map.
Yeah, so it's pretty great, and I'm so glad you're going to be cooking again, so good stuff, good stuff, good stuff.
Mr. Chair, I have
Yes.
2 questions. First of all, I see on my calendar that the July meeting would be on Thursday, the 20th, at a location to be decided. Okay. I just wanted to confirm my understanding because that's a shift for us. Okay. And then secondly, the Fish Springs annexation, like nothing's been annexed, no water sales. I'm just wondering what the change of ownership from Bidler to D.R. Horton is projected to be in terms of those annexation sales.
So as far as the Fish Springs is the water project, bringing water into the North Valleys. Since D.R. Horton purchased, the subsidiary Vidler as its subsidiary, we haven't seen much of a change in demand. I mean, it's no different than when it was Vidler under a different parent company at this point.
And all the agreements then had provisions that allowed that agreement to go to successors?
Correct, and just for the record, the Vidler, the entity, is still the party to those agreements.
Okay.
Basically, the parent company changed.
Okay, and you're not seeing any projections that D.R. Horton is going to use that in another way other than, the agreement that we have to, I guess, how would you characterize the agreement? Just in simple layman's terms, it's a water
Water supply.
retailer, or, yeah.
Yep, yeah, we have basically a capital agreement on the
Yeah.
development side, and then also the water rights side, and both of those are unchanged.
Okay, it's a supply agreement.
And they will stay
Okay,
the same per
okay.
the terms.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and thank you for your report. We have public comment. Is there anybody out there with public comment? Salerno, do you have any public comment? No comment. Okay, there you go. Any board comments or requests for future agenda items? How are we doing? Very good. Well, then I move to adjourn, and I would end saying thank you for the nomination. I appreciate it, and I do anticipate a great year.